Despite a troubled economic slowdown at home, Japanese investment in Cambodia are growing, with 9 companies starting businesses in the country in the first 5 months of this year. According to investment statistics provided by the Japan International Cooperation Agency, by the end of May, 9 Japanese companies, mostly manufacturers, had Cambodian approval to invest $142 million, and another 14 other companies are applying for approvals. In 2010, only 6 Japanese companies applied for and got approval for investments. Yuji Imamura, a JICA expert who is also an advisor to the Cambodian Investment Board Council for the Development of Cambodia, told Kyodo News that Cambodia is one of the 4 Asian countries attractive to Japanese investment, along with Bangladesh, Laos, and Myanmar. He said political stability, low labor costs, labor-intensive export processing, and domestic market import substitution are attractive factors for Japanese investors. Last month, Mini made co-joined with other Japanese companies to construct a main factory in Phnom Penh with capital investments of $59 million. When compared to investors from China and South Korea, Japanese direct investors are considered small latecomers but are welcome, particularly with their emphasis on manufacturing, such as electrics, home appliances, garments, sports and medical goods, and automotive parts. According to figures provided by JICA, by year-end, Japanese companies are expected to invest $211 million into Cambodian operations and will employ as many as 36,000 workers. Although much Japanese foreign investment in Asia has been in China, Malaysia, Thailand, and other more developed countries, Imamura said Japanese manufacturers now need to find new locations to survive, and Cambodia is one of the promising countries. Among Japanese manufacturers already in Cambodia are Yamaha Motor, Suzuki Motor, Ajinomoto, and Sumitomo Wiring System, and assemblers such as Sony, Nikon, Olympus, and Brother Industries are also interested in investing in Cambodia, according to Imamura. Since the early 1990s, Japan has been the largest donor country to Cambodia, if not the biggest direct investor.
Yesterday marked Russia's National Day and also marked the 10th anniversary of Vietnam and Russia's strategic partnership, and the day was being discussed over the gap of bilateral trade. Russian Trade Representative Sergei Brikhnevich has praised over sustainable growth and trade cooperation and reviewed $2.45 billion reached for the trade turnover. It has been a positive sign in the midst of negative world economic crisis for the past years. However, Brikhnevich noted that the full trade potentials of both countries have not yet been reached. First target aimed by both nations is to boost bilateral trade up to $3 billion by 2012, and a means to make the project feasible and successful is how refined exported goods from Vietnam should be increased. Most agricultural products from Vietnam are very attractive in Russian market because of its affordability. The means to reduce cost of transportation is to be further promoted. He has suggested that Vietnam establishes regional centers in Russia for direct shipment and distribution of Vietnamese products. The mechanism of driving a more strong foundation of a free trade area between the countries depends on the positive talks and the implementation of them. The initial assignment is to conduct a feasibility research of the free trade area. There are some other lucrative areas to be invested for Vietnamese as well as Russian entrepreneurs. For example, the extraction of coal in Russia, mineral resources in Vietnam, and the telecommunication area.
ASEAN Dengue Day has been designated on June the 15th by the ASEAN Health Minister after a current outbreak of the disease across the region. The Asean Dengue Day mainly contributes in a bid to raise awareness of and consequently curb the potentially mosquito-borne disease in the region. The disease, which spread throughout Jakarta, Indonesia, and Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam, has already been acknowledged, but also claimed over 100 lives among more than 5,000 reported cases this year. The major purpose of this Asean Dengue Day is to gradually build up a campaigning strategy in reducing the risk of dengue transmission in the region. In addition, Jakarta also participated in the region-wide trials of a new dengue vaccine, which started off last week with 800 children. The vaccine trials are being held in Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam. The number of 2.5 billion people are suggested to be risky of contracting the disease, with 1.8 billion or more than 70% of them in Asia. Therefore, the Dengue Day will more or less help feed the general public information about the disease. Eventually, it is expected to eradicate dengue disease for good.
The strain of E. coli found last week on kohlrabi, or German turnip, imported from Europe was harmless and not the deadly 0104 strain as previously feared, officials said yesterday. Chief of the Food and Drug Administration FDA, Dr. Pipat Yingseri, said the lab tests confirmed 13 tons of kohlrabi imported by Siam Food Service from Belgium had a normal strain, which could be easily killed by cooking at temperatures over 70 degrees Celsius. Another lot of kohlrabi imported by Tesco Lotus has been lab tested along with other vegetables and fruits imported from Europe, he said. The results should be out in another week. Affirming that the FDA continued to watch out for the deadly 0104 strain, Pipat said the latest measure was to impound for tests first thin-skinned fruits such as raspberry and blueberry, mostly from Germany. Thick-skinned fruits that people peel before eating would only face random test sampling. He urged people not to worry about eating sprouts, which the German authorities had thought to be the cause of a deadly outbreak, saying the information was inconclusive. He also advised travelers returning from Europe not to bring any fruits or vegetables back to Thailand. People who buy fruits or vegetables as a souvenir while in Europe should clean them thoroughly before eating as a safety precaution, he said.
Members of the Central Wage Committee will consider a new rate for the minimum daily wage on July the 6th, 3 days after the election. An increase is likely even though the Federation of Thai Industries has said a wage hike may cause some employers to go out of business. The FTI has claimed that between 6.7 and 16.9% of businesses may have to close down if a major wage hike is approved, and the possibility is highest in the East. Labour Ministry Deputy Permanent Secretary Sunan Potong admitted yesterday that the information is worrying, but he said wages would have to rise in the face of soaring living costs. He pointed out that after government schemes to provide free bus and train rides plus free electricity and tap water for low-income households expired at the end of this month, living costs would soar even further. A Labour Ministry survey showed that the minimum daily wage averaged 176 baht across the country, lower than what it should be when living costs were taken into account. However, Sunan fell short of saying how much the minimum wage would rise by. He said provincial wage panels would propose the new raise to his sub-panels by June the 20th, next Monday.
Coming up next, Dusit Group returns to North American market after the break.